I do declare there has been a murder inside of the Avengers Tower.
I didn't know where you were going with that, and I'm like, Grant turned into Foghorn Leghorn so fast we didn't even notice.
I feel like Foghorn Leghorn might have been a Southern gentleman solving a murder mystery.
I'd watch that show. I'm not gonna lie, I would watch that show. What if Foghorn Leghorn was a crime solver?
It fits perfectly. Yeah, hey folks, welcome to MCU Podcast, MCU Pod, your Marvel Cinematic Universe companion podcast. I'm your host, Grant. Alongside me is my co-hosts, including Randy Lander of the TV Dudes and the G.I. Joe podcast. And
I was telling Grant before we did this that this is the 5th podcast I recorded in 5 days this week. It's a little ridiculous.
So many, man. You're like putting Paul F. Tompkins to shame.
That's right. I'm coming for you, Paul F. Tompkins.
Hey, go ahead and list all of them. What do you got?
The other half of G.I. Joe podcast.
Okay.
Roguecast, which is my podcast over at the store. TV Dudes, of course. Loose Cannon, which is the comics podcast I do once a month with Martin Thomas and Bo Paul and Jason Murphy. And then this podcast here, the MCU Pod.
5 podcasts. Wow.
5 podcasts.
That's not enough. You need to tack on 2 more.
Yeah. I can talk about what I don't have any foodie podcasts. I could probably find a food podcast to be on. Yeah.
That'd be pretty sweet. And we're joined once again by our buddy Will Cardini, artist extraordinaire. And how many podcasts are you doing right now?
This is my only podcast. I'm dedicated to you, Grant.
Yes. It's unlike this cheating bastard over here. Folks, we are talking about the 3rd episode of What If over on Disney Plus, Marvel's animated series. And the 3rd episode is called What If the World Lost Its Mightiest Heroes? Before we jump into discussing all of that, I want to say, hey, welcome. If you guys are tuning in for the very first time, we do live reviews over on YouTube. You can join us at youtube.com/MCU Pod, and you can actually just go ahead and put comments in while we are discussing and reviewing. We like you guys joining in live, and you can say stuff like, Grant, keep the beard, makes you look mysterious, from Nicole Jackson. And unfortunately, I did just shave because I did a video shoot with some friends of ours, and I shaved down to just a mustache, and then it's a bit much.
Grant, why can't you let the mystery be?
I couldn't let the mystery be because the police were not going to let me take my kids to the playground. I look too creepy. But we appreciate you guys engaging with us live on here. You can also check us out. We have a podcast. You can listen to us just over there if you want to listen to that on Spotify or over on Apple. You can also help support us by giving us a 5-star rating, writing a little review, telling your friends, of course. You can also help us out over at patreon.com/MCU Pod, where you can make a per month pledge. Give us $1, $2, $4, $5, $8, $12, $15, $1 million if you want per month. Jeff Bezos, if you're listening, give us your money, you fucking dummy.
He's listening to everything all the time. That's
He is.
the truth.
It's Bruce Wayne.
Alexa heard that.
No scruples. All right. Well, I think that's enough of that. We have one other thing to note before we go into this episode, and that is that, yes, Nicole Jackson, we're going to talk about that Spider-Man trailer.
Hells yeah.
Because we just made Will watch it real quick so that he's not being spoiled. And if you guys haven't checked it out, maybe walk away from the computer for a minute and then come right back, and we will be done talking about it. But damn, that trailer came out, and what'd you guys think? Randy?
Loved it. I have warmed up to the MCU Spider-Man. I didn't love the first one at first. I've grown to love it since. I love Tom Holland as Spider-Man. It's a very different Spidey that they do in the MCU, but it actually totally fits in the MCU. And after he became part of the Avengers movies and stuff, I just completely fell in love with the character. So I'm super excited. And then to see that they're doing the multiverse thing and maybe touching on some of their Spidey movies, I'm super excited to see what they're doing.
Right. Will, you just watched it. Super fresh in your mind. What are you thinking?
I really dig Tom Holland as Spider-Man. I think he does a great job. really giving that like youthful exuberance of Peter Parker, because that's definitely like my favorite Peter Parker is like teenage Peter Parker. And I'm a little disappointed that they're going with the whole multiverse thing. And it's not, I mean, the whole way the MCU is going, right? They were going to go there.
Right.
And there's so many different Spider-Man, like it makes sense. But at the same time, as I mentioned before, we already had Enter the Spider-Verse. So it just feels like a little like, oh, they're taken from what they did before. I mean, I know it wasn't Disney who did it. And yet still, I want to see something fresh. I always want something fresh.
Well, I mean, I'm a mixed bag on this one as well. In that regard, I agree with you, but at the same time, there are some very curious and interesting things going on in this trailer. That, I mean, Doctor Strange seems like not Doctor Strange. Didn't you guys get this kind of impression, like him like winking at Peter after saying, "Yeah, I'm not going to do that spell" to Wong, and then going ahead and doing it, and then later like maybe fighting Peter on the train, and like what's going on with him? People pointed out that he's wearing the Eye of Agamotto after that thing was seemingly crushed by Thanos. There's like some weird things going on with Doctor Strange.
Let me nip this in the bud right here.
Okay.
And I'm willing to be, I'm very willing to put this out here.
Are you about to tell me he's a boat?
It's not Mephisto. Mephisto was the boat. It is not a variant Doctor Strange. Here is what is going on, and I am so sure of this.
Okay.
It's Doctor Strange.
He's just an arrogant bastard.
When he was with when if you go back to the first movie, when Wong was telling him, "Hey, don't touch those books," he stole the books right underneath Wong. He is not a guy who listens to Wong. We know this.
Okay.
And we've seen him be this sort of serious guy, but he was always kind of an arrogant bastard and kind of a jerk. If you go back to the first movie, this is very much in line with the Doctor Strange that we know.
I mean, it's true. When you think back to like Infinity War, Wong specifically asked for a tuna melt, and you knew that
he's not getting that tuna melt.
Strange was about to give him a BLT. It's just like, fuck off. I'm getting you a BLT.
That's right. You don't have any money. You get what I bring you.
Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah.
That's right.
They had a special sell on egg sandwiches. That's what you're getting, buddy. Yeah, I think there's also some scenes. Obviously the big reveals are that it looks like we have Electro, which I guess would be Jamie Foxx's Electro, because there's lightning strikes going on throughout the trailer. Mm-hmm. There's a sandstorm, so maybe we're getting Thomas Hayden Christensen's Sandman. Mm-hmm. And then we, of course, see Alfred Molina for Doc Ock at the very end. And you hear the laugh and see the pumpkin bomb for their version of Green Goblin.
Yep.
So Willem Dafoe, and that's 4 already. And we've had plenty of other ones of other characters introduced for them to do Sinister Six in this. If we want to bring Michael Keaton back or Scorpion from Breakout of Jail, whoever. So there's room for us to have the Sinister Six going on. Mm-hmm. People have been looking at that trailer and also trying to kind of pick apart whether or not it looks like, trailers lie. Mm-hmm. And trailers are for marketing and misleading you with a story. And Marvel has previously shown Hulk in big green Hulk battling in the Infinity War in Wakanda.
Right.
That scene didn't actually exist because we know it's Hulkbuster and Mark Ruffalo or Bruce Banner's inside of the Hulkbuster. So people are looking at Peter Parker on top of the hood of the car when the costume comes over him after he sees Doc Ock, and they think the outfit he's wearing actually looks a lot like what Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man was wearing in a lot of his movies. So there's speculation that they're just body swapping out and not doing the reveal that the other Spider-Men from the other movies are going to be in this, and just a lot of crazy theorizing going on. So I'm very excited for the potential of this, and it certainly looks like the reason we have Spider-Man even in the Marvel universe is because Sony said, sure, but at the end of the trilogy, all of our stuff is canon too, because we're rolling our multiverse into you.
Right. Yeah. And this is the way to go. I mean, I'm very nervous about the Spider-Man multiverse being an MCU continuity because most of it's crap. I'm sorry. It's true. Most of it is crap.
Nicole says, wasn't Doctor Strange, maybe a Loki variant. Okay. See?
Oh,
There's something weird going on there.
Look, the Raimi Spider-Man is fun. Spider-Man 2 is very good. It is not my particular cup of tea, but it's very good. Spider-Man 3 is terrible. I haven't seen it. I shouldn't say that, but by all accounts, terrible. Amazing Spider-Man was not very good. Amazing Spider-Man 2 was supposedly really, really bad. So the ratio of good to bad, and don't even get me started on Venom. I don't want that stuff in continuity with Marvel. So if they're able to do a way where it's basically like, yeah, it's in continuity, but it's a multiverse, it's like another planet off the
Ish.
side. That is the perfect way
Yeah.
to do all this.
Like Agents
Wow.
of S.H.I.E.L.D. is really apart.
Yeah, yeah.
you didn't like Venom? You're just blowing my mind right now.
I don't like Venom in general. So
He
You
doesn't
don't
like
like
Venom
Venom in general?
I don't
Randy,
like Venom. I
you
don't
know,
like Deadpool either.
I
No,
don't-
neither one.
Okay, well, I don't like Deadpool either, but like I throughout this podcast, I've learned so many things about you, and I feel like we're both like super into Marvel stuff,
Yeah.
but like the completely opposite ends of it.
Yeah. Yeah, Venom, I mean, don't get me wrong, Venom's a great look, and he made a good villain for Spidey, but once they made him the Lethal Protector, I lost all interest.
Hmm.
That
Venom
said,
is fun, Randy.
Will Morris,
Will
I do
Morris is
think
right.
Donny Cates's run on Venom has been really, really good. And I understand I am the only person the only person among the management of my comic shop who doesn't enjoy Venom on some kind of campy level. Just not for me.
Okay. One other thing to note is that Shang-Chi came out this weekend. It's in the theaters, right?
No, next weekend. Next weekend.
Next weekend?
Yes.
Oh.
You jumped the gun.
Let's jump in the gun. All right. All right. Well, it comes out next weekend, so keep that on your radar. I guess I won't be seeing it this week. Maybe.
Of some note, I noticed when I was watching Disney Plus earlier, I'm going through the Marvel movies with my son for the first time. They have put up the one shot of the Mandarin,
I saw that today.
which ties into Shang-Chi, which is interesting because they're starting to reference the one shots in the continuity. They're starting to reference them in the what ifs.
Like
So-
All Hail the King? Is that what it was?
All Hail the King. That's up as a one shot now. The Peggy Carter one should be up. I haven't looked for it, but it should be up because it's referenced in the first episode of What If, and I feel like it was referenced in this. There was one of the one shots was referenced. Oh, the coffee one shot with Coulson is referenced in this episode of What If. But we'll get to that.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's kind of cool. Them adding that to the stuff you can watch. No
Yeah.
Spider-Man though.
No.
Because Sony's being little bastards about that. Let us have our Spider-Man movies on Disney Plus.
And-
you jerks.
Am I wrong? Is Hulk, the Universal Hulk, is not on here either, right?
No, you're right.
Because that is also directly referenced in this What If. So it's in continuity, and it's always been in continuity, but they very, very, very formally put it in continuity with What If. But it's still not available on Disney Plus. So yeah.
Well, speaking of that, let's go ahead and dive in, cannonball in to our discussion of this week's episode 3 of What If, entitled What If the World Lost Its Mightiest Heroes, is directed by Brian Andrews once again, and it was written by AC Bradley and Matthew Chauncey. And the synopsis for this episode, according to IMDb, is Nick Fury struggles to launch the Avengers when candidates are targeted by a serial killer. All right. As usual, we start every review with a little bit of snap judgments. All right. I'm putting a call out to everyone in our chat to give us their snap judgments. And we're going to go ahead and start with Will. Will, what did you think of this episode?
I gotta say, so I kind of panned the first episode, and I wasn't here last week. I liked that episode 2 better, I think, because I'm a sucker for cosmic Marvel stuff. And this episode, kind of like middling. Like, I enjoyed it, but the animation still creeping me out, and I feel like it's still like heavily relied on, having like a fresh memory of the other movies and stuff. And I don't spend a lot of time rewatching the Marvel stuff just because, for whatever reason. So I'm always like, okay, wait, so is this a scene from the movie? And it just kind of like takes me out of it. You know what I mean? I kept thinking like, okay, I don't think this happened in the movie, and it's a new scene, and trying to like figure out how it's all patched together, it like kind of distracted me. But I did think there was some cool stuff in it, especially Hulk exploding like Tetsuo from Akira.
Yeah, that was nuts. Randy, what do you think?
To Will's point, actually, I do think What If, a friend of mine made this point that basically What If is the first show we've seen that you have to basically you have to watch a ton of other shows and movies before you can really understand it.
Mm.
And I do rewatch the movies a lot. I know most of them pretty well, so that is a bonus for me. I'm totally got down with that. I thought doing a murder mystery on What If was really interesting. I don't even think they've done this in the comics. This is a very interesting story and very tonally different from the other two. I was misled because I actually thought it was Loki the whole time. And I was sort of prepping. I was like, oh, Loki somehow knows about the Avengers. He's taken them out before they become a threat. And so I didn't see the actual reveal coming because I was so sure it was going to be Loki until he showed up with an army. I'm like, oh, wait, maybe it's not Loki.
Right.
And
I mean,
so,
like Hydra also seemed like a good option potentially.
yeah. So I really liked this. I thought I do think it's the least of the three that we've seen as far as like favorites. I would rank. I'd go in order 1, 2, 3. But I really enjoyed this, and I thought Lake Bell did a killer job in her ScarJo impression.
That was actually really good. Will, what would you rank these?
Yeah, I do 2, maybe 2, 1, 3. I'm not sure. I feel like 1 and 3 are kind of about equal in my mind. Maybe 3 a little bit more.
Yeah, for my snap judgment, first off, my ranking would be the same as you will, 2, 1, 3. This was my least favorite thus far, but I think a lot of my issues with this are kind of similar to my issues with the first episode in that the plot seems really rushed for, the ambition of what they're doing. It's hard for me to invest in this murder mystery when people are getting murdered every 2.5 minutes. I guess just they have to wrap it all up in about 30 minutes. And so it kind of undercuts itself, and it's able to operate that way because, like you said, Randy, we're so familiar and so engrossed in this world. But what does that do for people that aren't watching 2 to 3 Marvel movies on repeat a week? Like,
it's got to be bewildering. It's got to be just bewildering to watch if you're not familiar with the universe to that degree.
Yeah, but that said, I did enjoy the reveal of Hank Pym. Him being unhinged and crazy already tracks with the version that we get in our universe, where he's cantankerous and bitter, and you could see a little snap of him losing his daughter and him going off the deep end like that. So I felt it. Him also being cunning enough that he knows how to take down everyone, and to a certain extent was it was fun. You kind of go back and respect the guy to a different degree. Like, oh shit, you are a powerful character if you can take down the Hulk like that. And also the way they took down Hulk, very creative, I thought.
Yeah.
Let's hit on a few other snap judgments here. Will Morris says this week's episode was cool, great fun, but Hank Pym killing the Hulk was weird.
It was.
What'd you guys think of that?
It was. I think Will nailed it. It's like Tetsuo. It's such a weirdly dark. I mean, yes, they were murdering all the Avengers, but having him explode while Betty watches, man, that is messed up.
It was dark. Very dark.
I was hoping for the scene where we would see like pieces of him all over everyone.
Oh,
but
it was like gross, but not gory. It's like kind of like he was like slime.
Yeah.
Right. Poof, like a big balloon, and it just had a bunch of balloon flakes. I was like, was there anything in the inside?
I will say, as I was just watching Ant-Man, I was watching with my son. They really do point out from the outset that Ant-Man was really dangerous. That his technology, the ability to shrink and that kind of thing, that Hank Pym was extremely dangerous, and we don't really see that because we only see him as a cantankerous old man. But that tech is supposed to be dangerous, and it's only because it's in the hands of like goofball Scott Lang that it's not like, if you hand it off to a trained assassin, it would be a really deadly technology. So having it be like the center of a serial killer plot kind of makes sense. It's also, I don't know if this is a direct nod, but DC did a book called Identity Crisis, where basically the Atoms tech was used to do a murder, and it was a superhero murder mystery. It's a pretty awful comic, in my opinion. This is a much better version of that story.
I also gotta say, the first murder being Tony Stark, where Black Widow just comes up and like, I'm just gonna inject you with this and you're welcome, and then he dies from it. It's hilarious.
Yeah.
I was just like, yeah, you should ask someone before you just inject them with something to help them. You didn't have to do it that way, and then the dude dies.
Well, it worked out fine in our universe. In the Prime universe, he's just fine. So
he's fine, but still.
I also thought that, speaking of the Black Widow and the injection, all that kind of stuff, I really liked that we got to see the early Iron Man 2 stuff again. I thought that was a lot of fun.
Yeah, that was kind of cool. Kern says, this conveyed the spirit of some of my favorite dark what if comics. A serial killer stalking the screens of Disney Plus wasn't an area I was sure they would go.
Yeah.
I mean, definitely one of the darker in tone. You know, there was this tweet, I want to say it was a tweet that went viral this week about some DC fan was like, you know what, if the Joker had been in the Marvel universe, you know, they would just tear stuff up. And someone else like responded and be like, Punisher would kill them within minutes.
Yeah, I saw that. I saw that reaction.
Like, no one in Marvel seems to have a problem with killing anyone. The only reason Joker's alive is because Batman keeps him alive, and no one else will mess with Batman. But yeah, everyone's like people kill each other, and Captain America has a big body count in the Marvel universe. So them handling, you know, a serial killer is cool. It's just like tonally, obviously a deviation from what they normally cover in the show. So very fun that they went in that direction. I mean, once again, this is kind of where my gripe though comes in, because it's a lot of interesting story and structure. But for you to invest in the mystery of it, I think you need a little bit more time to kind of sit with it and sit with the ramifications. Whereas when they have it sliced into each day, happening in quick succession like that, it undercuts itself, I think.
Do you figure that the big Wednesday, Thursday, was that a nod to Infinity War? I mean, they've done the big titles, like the Russos always did that.
Right.
I was trying to figure if that was a nod to anything in particular.
I thought maybe Thursday might have been like Thor's day, like a reference to Thor.
Yeah, but I mean, just using like those big title cards and stuff. Is that language seemed familiar to me, and I don't know if it's something I'd seen elsewhere.
It's very much a Russo thing, though.
Yeah.
They were doing that in their films.
I do think one of the things I liked about this was a chance to get to see some of the Shield guys. I like getting to see Nick Fury and Black Widow and Coulson be sort of the leads of this whole piece. I'm glad that they finally figured out how to use Black Widow. Now they don't have Scarlett Johansson anymore. They finally figured out how to use the character, and now they can't use the character anymore.
Right. Do you guys think that would effectively kill Hulk? I mean, this is more of like a comics, hey, I can't die, kind of thing. Can you just enlarge his heart, or would his whole body have just enlarged and made more dangerous Hulk otherwise?
I thought his whole body, it was like his head wasn't shrinking, but the rest of his head stayed the same size, but the rest of him, was it specifically his heart? Like, I did not get that impression.
It looked like he went into his body and he threw an enlarging disc at his heart.
Yeah, his heart exploded, basically. It's a little dodgy, but if you're gonna have Ant-Man kill the Hulk, I don't know how else you do it, unless you go the Thanos route that everybody wants to see, and Disney's just not gonna do that.
Explode his butt?
Yeah, they're not gonna have him explode his butt.
They were so close to that.
They were. Yeah, this is as close as we're probably gonna get.
What a missed opportunity.
I did see somebody posted up a what if of like Ant-Man flying at Thanos' butt, and I was like, God damn it.
Oh yeah.
That's never going away.
It felt like, we see at the end that Nick Fury like goes toe to toe with Ant-Man, who seemingly had kind of adopted the uniform of Yellow Jacket. Is that what he was doing?
Yeah,
he became Yellow Jacket.
That makes sense in a way, because it's in the same way that the second episode had a lot of stuff where it's like you just had to like follow a lot of threads to how somebody got to where they are. That's a pretty common what if thing. It's like, oh, don't think too hard about why Doctor Strange is in the Iron Man armor. It's just we want to do that. Don't worry too much about it. But Yellow Jacket was Hank Pym's identity in the comics, so it kind of makes sense it would be his identity, and it was his like basically his evil identity. So it kind of makes sense that they would use that. I think it was mostly a way to indicate visually very quickly that he's a bad guy here.
Did you guys think that it was Loki right away?
I picked up it pretty quick.
Yeah.
How much of that was even Nick Fury at all? Was it all Loki?
It was always Loki.
Always Loki. I went back and rewatched the episode, and you see a lot of his dialogue is kind of like, oh, I didn't know that Hope's mother, Janet Van Dyne, was also a part of S.H.I.E.L.D.
Yeah.
And then he starts saying some other stuff that he's like clearly clueless. He's like, actually, I don't really care about any of you guys.
Yeah. Especially when he's there and the thing when you know it later when he says, so you killed him because you can.
Right.
That's when Loki was like, yeah, you killed my brother and it wasn't even part of your plan. I love that Loki's motivation was basically that his brother was murdered by mortals. Like he was gonna murder Thor at this point in time. Like he was totally down with murdering Thor, but he didn't want anybody else to do it.
I do think
good.
I had almost more of a problem with Thor dying that way than Hulk dying that way.
But he was mortal at this point. He didn't. That was the kind of the whole point of the original Thor movie is that.
Oh my gosh! See, I don't even remember that.
Yeah, when Odin turned him mortal and sent him down to Earth. Like, yeah, he was a jacked up, strong mortal, but he was mortal until the hammer came back to him.
Okay, all right.
He was stripped of his powers. Does that also mean his long span of life?
Well, yeah. Do you remember in Thor, the original Thor movie? The destroyer armor kills him. Like he is basically almost dead, and then the hammer comes and basically resurrects him. But definitely the implication was that in that form, he was vulnerable to being killed.
I thought that was a pretty good twist on it. That and then seeing Hawkeye's just kind of bewilderment and grief. And he's like, I never let go. Like how could that have happened?
Yeah.
And the whole answer to all these things being that Ant-Man could just quickly spring his fingers and stuff like that. It was a lot of great creativity that did thread through a lot of the characters. And I also love that all of those plot points were supposed to happen within the same week. The idea that Hulk was hulking out at the same time as Iron Man was going on a donut bender and I guess Thor was making his way down to Earth. It reminded me of like Infinity War or I guess Endgame where they're like, oh wait, if we go to the right date we can have 3 of the Infinity Stones all in New York at the same time.
I will say, having just thought as you were talking about it, the continuity doesn't quite line up because that fight with the army and Hulk that took place, like that camp, that map, the campus where they are at, that whole fight, that took place in Hulk in the movie. Like it's a visual reference to that movie,
right?
And that takes place simultaneous with Iron Man 1. We know this because of Tony Stark showing up at the end of of Hulk. So they did tweak the continuity a little bit.
You think they tweaked it for this what if?
I think they did. And again, you can make the excuse of things changed, butterfly effect, whatever. But
yeah. Hulk took a sabbatical for a year before he decided to do that.
Yeah, exactly.
Cambridge or wherever he was.
So what's the difference between this and the main continuity that Hope Van Dyne became a S.H.I.E.L.D. agent?
Yes, and I thought that was really interesting that basically, and to not give away the secret, they couldn't do like what, because we thought when you first see it, you think, oh, this is a universe where Tony Stark died, and it's not what if Tony Stark died, and they can't do clearly the divergence point was Hope was a S.H.I.E.L.D. agent, she got killed, but you can't call this what if Hope was a S.H.I.E.L.D. agent who died, because then you give away the entire plot. So I thought the way, giving them the what if of what if Earth's Mightiest Heroes were targeted or whatever was a good way to do it. So,
what do you think of Hope being recruited like that? Do you think that kind of makes sense and fits?
It does because we know that they wanted Hank not to leave. So it would kind of make sense for them to go after his daughter. Someone, if the divergence point was basically just that Howard Stark didn't, have the respect for him or something like that, like you could definitely make it a case for her being recruited as an operative.
Right. Yeah, I mean, I think how did this end? This ended ultimately with like Loki taking over the UN, right?
Yes, like Loki takes over the world, which is what would have happened without the Avengers.
I like that he's like, I think I'll probably stay a while. And
yeah, I loved that because as I'm watching this, I'm like, yeah, this is fun, and it's fun watching Loki work with Nick Fury. But Loki at this time point wants to conquer Earth, and there's nothing standing in his way, and so of course that's what he does.
He naturally does it, and
Yeah.
I'm sure Odin being like, "Oh damn, I really fucked up and sent my son down there and he got killed like
dead.
immediately."
Yeah, shit.
I guess I didn't teach him a really good lesson there. He's probably like, Loki, you do whatever you want, buddy.
Yeah.
Go ahead and conquer those people. I certainly have a lot of blood on my hands. Why not?
This is another one I want to see a sequel to. Like, I want to see what Fury's Avengers looks like. Is that Cap or is that Sharon Carter that he's trying to recruit? Like, I want to see a sequel. I don't know if they'll do one, but I'd like to see what the alternate Avengers going up against Loki, who's already conquered the Earth, what that story looks like.
Oh, because he wipes off the shield, but you think maybe we were only seeing part of the shield, and it was
I think it's possible it's Carter. If we did see it did look like Cap's shield, didn't it?
I think it was Cap's, right?
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
I'm glad that they made the reference to Captain Marvel in this. Like when Loki is there and he doesn't have an Avengers, he does go for the pager, and I'm glad they made that reference. And I also liked that basically he didn't call her, because it hints. People have asked that question since Captain Marvel came out of like, wait a minute, an alien invasion wasn't enough for him to call Captain Marvel back, and now we see it was really for like the biggest of emergencies. So he doesn't call her when he thinks he's got the Avengers to handle it.
That and the misdirect of him hearing the word hope and thinking hope implied our last hope would be Captain Marvel for a second, until he's like, oh duh, that lady I got killed, Hope.
Yeah. I do think Widow probably would have been better off saying it's Hank Pym as opposed to Hope, but she was in the middle of a fight. She probably got distracted.
Yeah, it was Hope that logged into the computer.
Yeah.
And so that was what the clue that she stumbled upon that she was trying to relay, right?
Yeah.
And I guess the word is vague enough that it can have a dual meaning for us for another beat.
I saw some people online saying that they thought that this needed like 10 more minutes to breathe, that the reveal of Hope didn't have a lot of meaning because we hadn't seen the character at all in this episode. Like, the reveal of Hope comes out of nowhere. But in thinking about it, I don't know how you introduce Hope as a concept here without giving away the game.
Yeah, I mean, this is once again an example of, it's not a murder mystery where we are the detective and we're following the clues as well, because they weren't really giving that clue to us.
Right.
And they're compacting everything into 30 minutes. And so it's one of the small gripes about this thing. It's really cool as a conceptual thought experiment, what they're doing here. But as far as storytelling, I'm a greedy little MCU hog, and I want more story. I want more time for these to breathe.
Yeah, I feel like that's my main gripe too. Besides the animation, is just they feel too rushed. And this was the first one where I really was like, I want to see what happens next. Like, definitely curious about like Captain Marvel leading an Avengers team.
Yeah.
Right. These are shorter episodes, so I think that there's not necessarily as much for us to cover as when we do the longer ones. So we don't necessarily have to belabor the discussion here. Are there any closing thoughts you guys have about this, or where you left off with this in your view of the What If series overall? Is that a weird question?
I still really love the What If. I love the What If concept. And so I've been having a blast with this. I'm super glad they're doing it. So I'm excited to see what comes next.
What about you, Will?
I'm still kind of cautious about it. I'm not sure how I'm feeling about it, and I think it'll really be by the end of the season when I'm like, that was worth my time, or I could leave it.
If you guys get a chance, not you two, you also, if you're welcome to, but you, the listeners, if you get a chance, if you go to our YouTube page, I did just recently put up an episode or a little mini discussion where I'm tackling the idea that what if is actually a direct tie-in to Avengers 5. And it's a little theory post I put up, and you can give that a view, give it your comments if you agree or disagree. But yeah, there's just another little fun thing I wanted to throw in there, that there might be larger ramifications for what if is attempting here, especially as we see how this is tying into the other movies and everything. So we'll see.
One other little thing I really liked in this episode, that the shot of Uatu in the background while the car is driving across the desert.
Yes,
Love
that was
that.
cool. And he was in space too.
Yeah.
Or no, not in the sky, in a different.
Yeah.
In the mountains. Yeah.
Yes,
The little bits, the little backdrops of seeing Uatu there, I really like.
It's
Me too.
super cool. It's got this eerie feel to it. Yeah, definitely a fan. Folks, we're going to go ahead and wrap everything up here, though, and we will be back next Friday at 9 p.m. Central Standard Time here at youtube.com/MCU Pod with our review of episode 4 of What If. We appreciate all of you coming and joining us to listen in and to chime in over in the comments. And I want to say thank you so much to Will and Randy for joining me this week.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, had a blast. Thanks for having me.
I guess if you get a chance, go ahead and check out Shang-Chi in the theaters. Maybe we'll discuss that on Friday and just spoil everything for people who didn't have a chance to see that right away.
Why would you not go to the theater right now? It's a great time to go see movies.
Best time.
Yep.
I mean, could have been last year. Could have been slightly worse, I suppose. But yeah, thanks again, everyone. We will be back next week. And until then, MCU later.